Okay, so now let's talk about the beta testing phase, the main challenge we have, and how LangChain is going to help us solve this main challenge. So remember that the beta testing phase allows developers to collect more data on how their LLM application is performing in real-world scenarios. In this phase, it is important to develop an understanding for the types of inputs the app is performing well or poorly on, and on how exactly it's breaking down in those cases. Both feedback collection and run annotation are critical for this workflow. This is what the LangChain team is telling us. Both feedback collection and run annotation are critical for this workflow. Don't worry, we are going to see how feedback collection operates in the practical part of the blog and how to create annotations. This will help in creation of test cases that can help track regression or improvements and development of automatic evaluation. So, the main challenge that LangChain team has identified that the LLM app developer teams have in the beta testing phase is how to process and analyze the feedback of the initial users. And they have the solution for this challenge, which is to use LangSmith to filter traces with negative human feedback to understand the problems behind them, to use LangSmith to inspect interesting traces and enter annotations about them, and to use LangSmith to expand the test dataset by adding runs and examples. Let's see each of these solutions that the LangSmith team has found. First, use LangSmith to filter traces with negative human feedback to understand the problems behind them. When launching your application to an initial set of users, it is important to gather human feedback on the responses it is producing. This helps draw attention to the most interesting runs and highlight edge cases that are causing problematic responses. Okay, so these are again the conclusions from the LangChain team. They tell us that it is very important to gather human feedback on the responses our application is producing. So LangSmith, they continue, allows you to attach feedback scores to log traces. Oftentimes, this is hooked up to a feedback button in your app. Then filter on traces that have a specific feedback tag and score. So remember how ChatGPT is getting feedback from you, this thumbs up and thumbs down button. So this is what the LangChain team is talking about, right? This is the positive or negative feedback we usually have from users in an LLM application. You can be much more sophisticated than this, but these are the most common. So a common workflow is to filter on traces that receive a poor user feedback score and then drill down into problematic points using the detailed trace view. We will see this in action in the next practical lesson, right? But I think the conceptual explanation is clear. So one of the things we can do in order to understand the feedback from our initial users is to filter traces with negative human feedback. Okay, so we will use LangSmith in order to do that. Next, in order to solve this big challenge, how to process and analyze the feedback of the initial users, we can also use LangSmith to inspect interesting traces and enter annotations about them. LangSmith supports sending runs to annotation queues, which allow annotators to closely inspect interesting traces and annotate them with respect to different criteria. So this is what the LangChain team is telling us, right? We will see how we are going to use annotations when we are working with real applications, but you get the point. So these annotations are our own feedback to what we observe in the LangSmith traces, right? And remember that in this case, we are not just talking about the LLM app developer. We are also talking about other people involved in the development of this application, like product managers or even subject matter experts who probably are not technical at all, but they understand the goal of our application, right? That's why the LangSmith or LangChain team is telling us annotators can be product managers, PMs, engineers, or even subject matter experts. This allows users to catch, users here are LangSmith users. So this allows the LangSmith users to catch regression across important evaluation criteria. Okay? Finally, we can use LangSmith to expand the test dataset by adding runs as examples. Remember, we are going to talk about all this terminology in the next blog. What is a run? What is a trace? What is an LLM call, etc. So, as your application progresses through the beta testing phase, it is essential to continue collecting data to refine and improve its performance. LangSmith enables you to add runs as examples to datasets from both the project page and within an annotation queue, expanding your test coverage on real-world scenarios. So, in short, when we are talking about traces, LLM calls, and runs, we are talking about different degrees of detail when we are inspecting or researching what is happening under the hood. So what we are seeing here is that in the test dataset, we not only can add traces, we can also add runs. We will see how to do that when we go to the practical exercise. This is a key benefit in having your logging system and your evaluation/testing system in the same platform. So this is one of the main benefits of LangSmith. So LangSmith is presented as a full LLM ops platform. And even when it is probably the new kid on the block, where you can find other adults in the room, so there are other applications that are, very solid and with more years than LangSmith. But the very interesting thing about the LangSmith platform is that this is developed by the LangChain team. So probably you don't have other people with better knowledge about LLM application development teams than the LangChain team. So it is very interesting that with this knowledge and expertise that they have from observing LLM application development teams working, with all this knowledge and expertise, they have created this new LLM ops platform. Okay, so this is very important for us. In the next lesson, we are going to talk about how LangSmith is helping us to solve the challenges in the production phase.